Mm, Dom. Cowboys Nation. Day 5 of training camp and the first padded practice. We got lots to talk about. Let's go. And just like that, it's a Monday. Dom is officially back to real life and not in Oxnard anymore. Back to life, back to reality. There might have been a song there once upon a time with those things attached to it, if you will. But padded practice, we're back at it, and we got stuff to talk about, Dom. Man, how we doing this Monday, brother? Oh, I'm mute. You're muted.
Yeah,
You're muted.
it's a
There it
great
is.
Monday. A great Monday, back to reality, but it's all good. Operating on about 3-4 hours of sleep, but that's what grown men do sometimes.
Sometimes you just got to strap up and get it in. That's all you can do. And,
Right.
hey, it's go time, right? Just like today, padded practice and seems, both sides. I mean, we heard about the offense and defensive line coaches. We're really excited about today because, of course, without the pads, you can't really get a lot of work. Then you can go through the little individual drills and stuff. But you really get some really good work with the pads coming. So they were amped up. But from all intents and purposes, out there in Oxnard, everybody was pretty amped up to get into these pads, man.
Oh yeah, and this is the day whenever the people who are connected, tied into the Cowboys, a lot of the new media. This is the day that you were looking forward to, and many people, flew out and they're there. So shout out to all those guys who are out there right now, grinding, doing their work, trying to share out content, doing the same thing that we've been doing. And so,
So
yeah, when those pads come on, you know, guys start to come to life. So this is the time where offensive linemen can start to shine because you don't want to really hurt somebody, in shorts and t-shirts going full bore. And, you can't grab the breastplate and the pads and stuff whenever you're
yeah,
blocking. There's technique where you're taught how to, properly grab the pads and the jersey. So offensive linemen will start to shine. But then your boy representing the fullback, halfback group, Hunter Lipke, this is where you're going to start to hear some things about him. Things will start to trickle out, and any of the running backs. So guys who tend to be bigger and more physical, this is their time to shine.
well, absolutely. And before we kind of get into all of that, let's kind of talk about a couple of things one off the field, and let's get to some injury stuff. Ronald Jones, unfortunately, um, ped issue, going to miss the first 2 games of the season. He's going to be suspended for the first 2 games. It's been very interesting because we've talked about throughout your time out there, what we were kind of seeing was that a lot of the bevy of the carries, obviously with Pollard kind of getting brought along slowly. Malik Davis is really putting in a lot of that work, and just to kind of talk to the room of what's going on now with him, up against that 2 game suspension. Does that change anything for the Cowboys? Do they think about bringing somebody else in or whatnot? What's kind of wait and see. But for a guy that we've talked about, Dom, whether here or on the spaces, simply was in a dog battle per se for the number 2 running back spot here on this team. Kind of a blow for him, right?
It is, and like I mentioned to you guys last week, it seemed as if each running back that was healthy was getting their opportunity to step up in the shorts and t-shirts to have their day as far as more carries for the day. So Deuce had his day. Heck, even Malik Davis had his day. And then whenever they start to go live in the one-on-ones, I thought, what's his name? Oh, number 23. Goodness.
Dowdle?
Dowdle. I
Yeah.
thought Dowdle honestly looked the best out of the running back room from the touches that he was able to get. So you think, you start to think, all right, when the pads come on, Ronald Jones will probably get his day, get his opportunity. And then you had the early press conference with McCarthy, and he made no mention of Ronald Jones, and then a couple hours later we see why. So, yeah, that spells some trouble for him in making a team because they got him on a pretty cheap deal. He is a veteran. He's kind of already bounced around a bit in his career for a guy who's still relatively young. Just thinking what he could have brought to the table, but now it might just be turn it completely over to the young guys because we know the NFL tends to be a young guys league, especially for the running back position. And for those people that like to think about, no one being a progress stopper, well, now guys like Deuce Vaughn, who the fans are extremely excited about, here's your opportunity. I saw some words from Rico Dowdle today where he is looking at this being his main opportunity, his first real one in his career, where he's been able to have that chance for the number 2 spot. So he's coming after it. He's looking for it. And it's just going to breed competition amongst the guys. But right now, I'm telling everybody, look out for number 23, Rico Dowdle, because he has looked extremely good. For him, it's always been about health. Can he truly stay healthy? Because when you're a back end of the roster type guy anyway, any little bit of a nick or a pop of a PED, those performance answers might cause Ronald Jones to see himself out the door before it really even started for him here with the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see how they're going to handle it. And maybe it's something where, they'll just let it play out. And if he makes it, so be it. They got young guys that can figure it out for 2 games. And you can get a little tricky with the final roster with a guy that's going to be suspended for the first 2 games of the season so they can shell game a little bit. But again, very, very interested to see here now that he is, up 2 games suspended for PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, how the Cowboys move forward with him and where it's at. So something to keep an eye on over the next couple of days for sure.
Yep.
Now spinning the block though, Sam Williams early into the practice, met with the head trainer, went to the back, sounds like a shoulder issue, not believed to be serious, but didn't come back for the rest of the practice today. So another guy, nothing too bad. Not about Donovan Wilson, but something that happened there with him with the shoulder. I'm sure we'll get a little bit more clarity on that come tomorrow, or maybe a little bit later on here this afternoon. We'll wait and see. But considered early on not to be very long term or anything like that. And then we kind of go back to Trayvon Diggs, who actually came out and did some work today early on, and then they didn't boom back to the street close. Didn't really surprise me because again they talked about it's the bruised toe. They're going to be very cautious, maybe a week or 2, just going to wait for him. But it was encouraging to me at least to see him come out, do some individual works and whatnot before they got into the 707s and the 11-on-11s and then back to street close.
Yeah, that was a part of the plan. We were still there on Sunday before we came back. They mentioned this. He'd just go out, get some light work, kind of do the warm-ups, be with the DBs in their position groups and doing the drills, but then for him to not be a part of the actual padded practice portion. So don't be too alarmed with Trayvon Diggs. This is the kind of precautionary thing that you do to make sure you protect your $100 million cornerback. But then for the Sam Williams situation, for Sam, it's just a bummer because you can tell that he's an ultra competitor. He wants to be out there. So it could be one of those things where they're also being, very careful with what's going on with him because he's definitely added some armor to that body for a guy who was already impressive as a rookie coming in, but he looks extremely well now. So I bet you for him, he's a little bit down because he's thinking, man, I've yoked up and got a little bit bigger and I'm ready to go. And we got the pads on first day, young buck like that. So you kind of got to, protect him from himself and make sure that he's truly doing extremely well and that he's healthy to be able to perform. So slow him down a little bit, and you tend to kind of do that too whenever a guy's already primed and ready. So they did Micah the same way a little bit his rookie year. So why go in and let a guy go, cause greater damage? Just ramp him down or amp him down. You'll be fine, and then you'll see him back here shortly. But yeah, there's going to be big things coming on the horizon for Sam Williams with this defense because there's definitely a plan. He seems to already be poised to be, edge 2 behind Micah when it comes to purely getting after the quarterback. And D-Law, he's still the leader when it comes to, being an overall leader of the team, but that run defense is solid. But Sam Williams is kind of the best of both worlds right now.
Right.
So you want to be able to protect that commodity.
Yeah. Gregor, yeah, and so we're talking about Sam Williams early into the practice today. Shoulder situation, spoke with the head trainer, took him to the back, and missed the rest of the practice today. So we'll wait and see. Not considered to be severe, but again, until we get the official word, anything could be possible. But right now, considered not to be very serious. But as you're talking about a guy that's ready to go, can we just go ahead and put Micah Parsons in bubble wrap right now and then open him week 1 up there in New York? Because I didn't have enough time. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I was busy at the store. I was getting here. We were going back and forth, and I would have this video loaded up for you. I don't know if I've ever seen Tyron Smith get abused like that. and I threw a tweet out there. I was like, "Hey, Micah, man, hey, man, you can't. I don't need you to be doing that to Tyron Smith. I mean, he just went already out of the way, parallel to the ground, up out of there. And at that point, I was like, look, man, Micah Parsons is ready to go. Now, there's another thing that we saw as well, too, some on the backside or whatnot. But brother, talking about some of the highlight moment here in the padded practice, Micah said, "Excuse me, future Hall of Famer, this ain't it."
Man, it was reminiscent of when Cowboys played against San Francisco and he ragdoll tossed, almost kind of hump move-ish to Mike McGlinchey. It was one of those, and just get out of here.
See you later.
Like the kind of thing that I would do whenever I'm cleaning my daughter's room and I'm tossing a Barbie doll like over into the bin. Like, go and get out of here.
Yeah, man. I'm just like year 3, Micah.
I don't know whether to be like, hey, it's Micah, be excited for that, or ooh, is this what we're looking for?
I saw Micah later in camp though do it on the other side too. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. It just wherever he's at, it just doesn't matter. So again, I think Micah's ready for week 1, so we can just go ahead and bundle him up. Okay, cool beans. We're good to go and then unveil him up there in New Jersey. We play the Giants Sunday night, week 1. Another clip that's kind of going around as well, too, and it does involve Tyron Smith, was blocking on Mozzie Smith, that is. The thing to me, though, and I saw people talk about it, and look, and it was a great rep for Tyron, but I'm like, the one thing two things, I should say, in that highlight clip and what was going on there was, one, Mozzie was getting not 1, not 2, but 3 blockers thrown at him early here in training camp, the first padded practice, because it was actually a combo block from the Smith brothers and Tyler and Tyron, and the tight end was crashing down as well. Now, Mozzie probably misjudged what was happening for a second. He didn't get pushed back. And he got hauled out of the hole, but he did stand his ground eventually when it came there. And so, but again, I know a lot of people say about Tyron, grown man strength, Mozzie. I get that, but brother, it was a combo block and the tight end came down. Also, as you talked about in the spaces we went through, and then kind of going back with notes and conversation, and then what he dropped on June 7th, if y'all didn't catch the tweet, and of course, Dom, you've talked about on Twitter as well. LVE in that package and what they're looking at was actually playing edge on that play. So something to kind of go back to what we've been kind of talking about throughout the spaces, and throughout our channel here and whatnot. The Dan Quinn work that you were talking about, Dom, with him specifically, LVE, and then once again in that play, everyone's talking about Mozzie and Tyron, what was going on there. But I'm like, what does my eye see? It's LVE at the edge position. But interesting enough, though, back to the Mozzie part of this of that section first. Throwing 3 at him already, I think, speaks a lot about what they're trying to get him ready for this season.
The big thing for interior defensive linemen that really is hard for them, it's not so much the power, it's the speed of the NFL. Right. It's the speed of the offensive linemen. You don't have any sloppy guys that, you're just going to be able to beat sheerly just because, you're bigger, faster, stronger, better, or more experienced and more savvy. Now you're the guy at the low end of the totem pole.
Don't do that. It's not Friday. Those not here. Hey.
So with Mike, so with Mozzie, I think what they're trying to throw at him right now is getting used to the speed of the game. And then along with that speed comes the angle of the blocks. So whenever you have a tackle that's crashing down on you when you're in a 3 technique, that's something that you're truly not expecting. So it's almost like that ear hole experience. Like anybody that's ever played defensive tackle, and the first time you were exposed to a trap block, you break through, you think I got it, and then boom, ear
Yeah.
hole. So you start to realize, get your head on the swivel. If somebody's not blocking me, there's probably a reason why they're not blocking me. Maybe there's a blocker that is coming my way, or maybe it's a screenplay. So for him, he's got to not only get used to staying low, having a proper stance, firing, he's also got to now think, where are these blockers coming from?
Mhm.
Now, on that play, I want to know, well, what was his responsibility anyway? Because
Right.
you saw a great deal during practices off to the side with defensive linemen where Dan Quinn was working primarily on them. What does it look like when you one gap? Well,
Mhm.
for us, we know that's your time to be a slasher.
Yeah.
You get after it. You're trying to get on the play side of the offensive lineman who's trying to either wash you completely down or get their hat on the play side and dig you out. So for a guy like that, what do you do when you one gap? But then the other thing to consider is, what happens if we want you to be the guy taking on the double team? From my looks of that, it seemed like he would have been two gapping there, looking to
Yeah.
take on the double team or looking to, you know, get his hands on the offensive lineman, reestablish the line of scrimmage, and then look to see where the ball is. But he wasn't expecting where that power was coming from, which is from
Mhm.
Tyron, and we know that Tyron's been doing that his whole career. So, yeah, so don't over analyze that play. Actually, be excited that that's happening to Mozzie right now, so he can
Mhm.
get that experience to be used to it. Because when he gets into a real NFL game, nobody's gonna, play nice. And Tyron, even though Tyron, punched him in the mouth there, he still took it easy on him. Because
Right.
in a game situation, man, that monkey would have been blown up.
Yeah, he might get a little pancake action. But
Yeah.
the thing you just said there though, it's about he was looking at two gap, and that's another big sign here because we go back into the offseason when Sharif Floyd was on DallasCowboys.com talking about them changing from that one that one gap to more of a two gap
Yep.
situation. So it's again we're kind of seeing some of the things that we heard are going to change, kind of come to fruition on that point. And then
Yeah.
just again on the second side of that, LVE once again over there playing some edge. So I don't know how much that's going to happen. Obviously, it's camp or whatnot, but they're definitely down the lane in training and doing those things. I think it's going to tend more into how they want to move Micah, because if you're going to move Micah from that side, right, you got to have somebody to come over there and do certain things to replace wherever you're going to go with him. So obviously, LV's going to be one of the guys they're going to look to deploy there when they're trying to move Micah as that chess piece.
Right. And whenever first sharing that with you and the guys on Pick Six about, man, I'm seeing a lot of LVE working with the defensive ends and not the linebackers, and then seeing it happen again for a second straight day of practice. Then he was doing it through the walkthroughs. So the first 4 days that they were there at camp, like, you see LVE with defensive ends. And it's like, all right, that's got to stand out. I got to make mention of that. So whenever you then look at his career numbers and what he did as a guy who played on the edge, his first 2 years, very little bit of edge work. Third year, he ended up only getting like 6 snaps at the edge. Then I think in 2021 was like a little spike year for him, but then he went back down this past year with only like 27 or so edge snaps. So the fact that they're now trying to incorporate that, I just think they want to get him used to what it's going to look like whenever he does have the opportunity to be utilized as a guy on the edge, standing up, being able to do his particular assignment, because it may not just be, we're going to make you an edge rusher. It could be, we're going to have you on the edge in preparation of the running back coming out of the backfield or some type of action where we might need you to drop in a zone. And we know that one of his best qualities is being a linebacker that can actually drop in the pass coverage. He's been doing that since his collegiate years. So, get him used to being on that edge, seeing what it's like, what it looks like, reading what the offensive line are doing. Can you pick up on any cues that can help you determine what the play is going to be? So it wasn't like we were trying to put that out to say that, oh, he's now a defensive end. He's now made the
Right.
conversion over from linebacker to defensive end. Nah, it's none of that. But we do have to investigate this stuff and then try to share out. And then we, at this point, can only guess or predict how they're going to use him. So our prediction is he's still a linebacker. Just take some snaps on the edge. And right now in practice, get used to it, because you don't want to try to get him in the thick of things in the summer or the season, and now throw him out there if he hasn't practiced at that position. And we all know he struggled with shedding. He struggled with the hand technique. Well, do a lot of heavy bag work, do a lot of work with getting blockers off of you, and be ready for the season. So he's still a linebacker, but be ready for the usage of him in that role on the edge.
10-4. And, you know, we're sitting here now and, you know, talk about Michael over here, what he did to Tyron, and then, you know, some of the Mozzie stuff, and then, of course, how that play kind of broke down. And the one thing that's kind of interesting is we keep hearing, you know, the defense is winning the day. And then I go back to, but boy, these wide receivers are really competing. And like each day, it seems like somebody may be a little bit different. You know, like Brooks had a great day today, you know, and being consistent and building upon that. And Brooks came out, had a good day. It's Turpin season. I'm trying to tell people, people trying to get Turpin off this roster. I'm like, hey, man, Mike McCarthy's been talking to y'all about Turpin, man, before he showed up. And, man, as good and stuff that he was doing day one, out here putting in work on day two, you know. So it's just, I tell you, it's exciting because we keep hearing about how the defense is winning and what's going on, but consistently seeing not the big three, and we know, and again, another 4 + 3 = 7, if you will, as they hit, as Dak hits Cooks again for another deep pass touchdown with a great route there. But it's these guys underneath those big three. Gallup had a good day today too as well. But those other guys on the backside of this wide receiver depth, even with the defense winning and what's going on, just out here really competing. You know, and maybe some of the PTSD from last year in training camp and where the wide receiver room is.
Right.
But, you know, again, it's Brooks, and or it's Cropper, or, you know, here comes Turpin in here. Here's another shot in the arm and what he's bringing to the table.
Right.
And Tobert's him now even more so. The pads coming on, one-handed catch today, out here just playing football and not thinking. I think is what No C talked about today on Twitter. And, man, just these guys behind the three just out here really competing, even though we know the defense ultimately is doing what they're doing. Just a breath of fresh air, and it's got to get, you know, Dak Prescott pretty excited.
You know, I have to go for the low-hanging fruit.
Sure.
First, with the receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
So Brandon Cooks, he's been so impressive thus far. The expectations were extremely high once they traded for him amongst Cowboys Nation. You know, we've been longing for the opportunity to see a guy with speed who has dynamic movements, you know, be a part of this receiving core. Not to say that Amari Cooper didn't have it. Amari Cooper was like a route guy. He had some speed. Lamb was coming on as a young guy when we had Amari there. But now you have two legitimate, experienced receivers who are dynamic in their own right. And to think that as high as our expectations were with Brandon Cooks, he's already far exceeded them as far as being a leader in the clubhouse, being a mentor to the receivers, even down to the cornerbacks, teaching them like how you would be able to stop certain receivers who use certain moves on them. I saw him working with Kelvin Joseph even whenever Cavante Turpin did the little whip route. I saw Cooks then later along with Kelvin Joseph kind of talking about stuff. So I can only imagine, you know, he's probably rubbing off of him some of that information. So the way that he prepares for the game, his attention to detail, what the coaches are saying about him right now in the clubhouse, and then now his performance in practice, he's the big play guy right now.
Right.
He's actually done more in practices with big plays than even CeeDee Lamb. So Cowboys fans should continue to be excited with what we have in Brandon Cooks. That dude has so much left in the tank. He's not close to being one of those 29-year-old guys that, you know, he's already done his thing in the league and now he's on the tail end of his career. He has it. So some guys just are able to keep that longer into their career. So he's still performing like a top athlete in the league from the receiver spot.
And it's interesting because this is when you want Dak and him to create that. Dak and Lamb have that already.
Right.
This is the time you want to see him create it. And for it to be clicking, seemingly so good so early on is a great sign. And it kind of goes back to what Lamb talking with, I think it was 105.3 The Fan, about this offense. And it's up to Dak. Yeah, they're calling the plays, but it's really Dak that's calling it. And, looking to go, throw the ball deep now. Unlike, years past, we all know we've seen that. And, going back to what Schottenheimer said, of attacking offense is what they want to attack. And you don't attack by running hitches, curls, and outs. You attack by going downfield and creating concepts. Just we were so excited, from before this practice, the last practice of, oh my God, they ran a sluggo and a whip route underneath it. Holy cow. Things like that. But then you have the guys that you're talking about, Dom, a little gas in the tank, okay, over here with Cooks. And again, he beats Curson, another guy over here, catches the ball, lays it out there, boom, and he turns it up and gets into the touchdown. Like I said, it's almost like every single practice we see Dak hit him for a big pass that goes for a touchdown, which is exciting right now. The Lamb stuff is going to come anyways, right? We understand that. It's about building that connection with him right now. And so far, huge check mark in what could ultimately turn into being the biggest acquisition talent-wise for any team this offseason, the way that it's early on working.
Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing what Cooks does. We can keep talking about the leadership and all that, and that's great. But sometimes some guys just aren't great leaders. They're more of a quiet demeanor. They just go do their things, and they'd rather lead by example, by just watch me type.
Right.
But he has that too. And the defenses, they feel it. Like, I'm not going to throw out like the defense fears his speed, but they definitely respect
it. Yeah, right.
And you see it. You just, the way that they react to when Cooks is on one side of the formation, is he in the slot? Where is CD? So on the touchdown where CD had in the corner from Dak, at I think it was Saturday's practice.
Yeah, like on the 1 yard line, they ran the pick route with Gallup, right?
Yeah, it's like, man, just imagine instead of having Gallup over there, you put Cooks over there, and that same action.
Pick and choose. Yeah, I mean, hey, pick and choose. And it's in talking about that. We heard so much about, but on the goal line, what are we going to do on the goal line? How are we going to get in the goal? How are we going to run it in? You don't have to. If you scheme it with stuff like that, that's what you do, and you ain't got to worry about it, man.
So you got three guys now from the inside at receiver, because the third guy is the special guy, special teamer, who didn't have a shot to really do his thing last year, entering late. Now he's got his head on with the offensive side. Kavontae Turpin, folks.
Yeah. Turpin season. It's upon us. Whenever, and it's what I tell people, it's like, for me and how I operate, I'm like, when I listen to these press conferences, certain things make my antennas go up. And it's usually when coaches talk about people that they're not asked about. And I'm like, what triggered that? And even before they got to Oxnard, he brought it up. Talking about Mike McCarthy, and said, "You're too many to see more of that wide receiver from him and that growth." I said, "Oh, Turpin, that's interesting. It's interesting." With everything was going on because you got Cooks in here. Year two for Tolbert, and of course they drafted Brooks, and they got Cropper in here. So he brought him up. I said, "That's interesting." Then he got out to camp, and even for the summer practice, it wasn't asked about him. He brought up Turpin again. I said, "Hey man, there's something there. There's something going on there." And talk about the guy that hit the ground running the last two practices. After salute to him. Birth of the child, and had to miss the first couple, but hit the ground running, if you will, Saturday and today. And I mean, just laying out, getting in and out, the speed. You got a chance to sample some of that speed on Saturday, and what he's bringing to the table. It's just like, boy, this team all of a sudden just was speed all over the place. And again, we keep hearing the defense is winning, and they won today. Is the overall word. But boy, these wide receivers, man, are really out here competing. And of course, it's how they built it. because of getting the Cooks in here. So we're going into year 2. The guys they drafted, like, so there's real Simi, big, and look, Simi had a good day today as well. Like, I know we're talking about the other guys because it's, quote unquote, the sexier guys to talk about, but go dial it up. Simi had a good day today. These guys are just, man, when you get this kind of competition, there's always going to be roster spots. You're just getting great competition and iron sharpening iron, if you will. And, it's just pretty exciting about, that situation. Right. And look, we're not even talking about in some of the things we saw today, running some passing routes to the running backs as well, and seeing some of that come into play. So just a night and day difference with the scheme of what they're doing and how they're coaching these guys. And coaching these guys matters. Tuck was talking about it, man. These guys are out there after. Dom, you talked about it out there. Like, these coaches are in the mix. They're not nothing. They're in the mix with these guys. And I think I think maybe that's the biggest thing that we're seeing is how this coaching staff is attacking it with everyone who's, especially in the offense now, who's there. It's completely a different set of guys with the offensive line coach, coordinator, and play caller. And I think we're just seeing that entering early here in the week 2 of camp.
Yeah, and the coaches have been high energy. They've also been honing in on staying disciplined, doing your role, not doing too much. And I liked what I saw even today from the perspective of, Josh Ball has been playing inside at right guard since Zach Martin hasn't been there. And then Willetsko was going to have his opportunity to play right tackle today because they were trying to give Steele a day off.
Right.
And what did the word come out of camp? There was 2 penalties on
false starts.
Willetsko because, And so what did they do? We're just about to strip that rest day. Come on in the last series. And it was like, the last series too. So, I mean, to do that is you're making a point. Yeah. Like, we have to clean this stuff up. There's no way we can continue to commit, pre-snap penalties. Those are the worst. That just means you're not plugged in. And so for them to, start to do little things like that, making players, I mean, it's not like uncommon, but watching players on their own realize they've messed up and go to do some push-ups on the side or whatever it may be. I think the whole point of what McCarthy gets to get across to this team is we have to be clean. We have to be more efficient. We have to stay disciplined. That comes down to you as a blocker, not jumping pre-snap or knowing your role. If we do some type of audible, you have to have known the playbook well, whether it's the quarterback making wise decisions. We're opening this playbook up to you, Dak. It's completely yours. You have the ability, like Lamb said, in the huddle to decide what you want to do, whether it's looking at the coverage that they have, just, go and do your thing. So he's putting trust in the players' hands as well. But if I'm going to trust you, I'm going to need you to know your role, know what you're supposed to do, and be efficient while you're doing it. And so I think about that whole comment about the run efficiency, running the ball more. It's really about the efficiency of it, not so much running the ball more and wanting to spread that thing out. Dallas has a number of weapons now in offense. You want to get all those guys involved, which means great competition. So if you want your opportunity, you better be smart. You better clean this thing up in practice so they can have enough trust in you to get out there on the field and perform.
Yeah, man. Attention to detail. And throughout the years, we've heard the penalties and take care of this, take care of that. And I've talked about it a lot just in the simple fact of, like, he can do it at a certain point, though. Like, you always say, oh, Jimmy would have cut him. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, it's not the same league. Okay. Right. And Jimmy cut a punter. Calm down. Relax. And you're a professional. You know what the snap count is. Then you do the things you try to implement about that. Like, again, it's supposed to be still maybe a little rest. Oh, let's get it back in here. Do what we got to do because you're not handling your business. Send the message. Attention to detail in that realm. I kind of want to go down the list here a little bit too. Some guys, maybe not as big notable fame, but guys that we like, from last year, and like Bell, for instance, and heard great things coming out from there. I know No C talked about him. I know you had a chance to look at him, and obviously there's an opportunity for Marquise Bell with the Donovan Wilson injury, the Izzy Kwamu injury. So, opportunities here. And so far, it seems that he's been matching or walking through the door, if you will. And another great practice for him today with the pads on.
Yeah. And, we mentioned, like, he stayed on the roster last year. There's a reason for that. He was able to do it on a stacked safety group, and he's still going to be a part of another stacked safety group. And they're even better because of the year together, more of Quinn being in the ear of these guys, them knowing their role. And so you look at all the other young guys that are behind the top three, really top four, because we got to throw Mukwamo in there
Right.
because he's been balling. So now who's going to make that roster as that next guy? It still looks like Bell kind of has a stranglehold on it because he seems prepared and poised and very confident in his approach out there. So the more and more that I see trickle out, especially in the first padded practice, for him to do as well as he did, you continue to be excited for him. Plus, we know we need those safeties and linebackers to play on special teams. And
Right.
since we just came out of the talk about the receivers, most of our receivers may not play on punt and kick return when it comes to, or the kickoff teams. You're going to need those other guys to be able to do it because we're looking to use our receivers really just as receivers, with Turpin maybe being the one guy, if Simi isn't able to make it, being a special teamer as the returner himself. So, yeah, anything that you can do when you're on the back end to be able to flash and practice and then play on special teams and then be a kind of an emergency guy if anything happens with the starters ahead of you.
Right.
A guy like him is perfect.
10-4. I'm gonna get to Eric Scott, but looking crazy says any concerns thus far through camp. Y'all know me. The special teams matters. Special teams matters. And today's the first day they finally were kicking in front of everybody. They've been kind of keeping it under wraps, and that was the first mojo. Y'all remember? McCarthy likes the mojo moments. It's about that mojo, baby. And before they got to the mojo moment, it was a mixed bag. It was a very mixed bag, okay, from the kickers. I think they both, what they go, 4 for 7, I think each is what it was, or 5 for 7, something like that. But in the crunch, in the mojo moments, they nailed all their kicks. So, yeah, man, Kobe still scary. First time we got to see him kick, miss some kicks. And I think a 33-yarder from Vizcaino. I'm like, 33-yarder, God. But when the pressure was on, if you will, in the mojo moments, they did go perfect, both guys from all three distances. So,
yeah,
a kicker for me is definitely a concern. Dom.
Yeah. Todd Archer, he tweeted out Tristan Vizcaino and Brennan Aubrey both went 5 of 7.
That's what it was. Okay,
on their first field goals attempts in practice. So that wasn't all their attempts in practice. It was just that earlier portion. And, Vizcaino missed from 33 and 45. And then Aubrey missed from 43 and 45. So a little bit longer for him. One of the things I noticed in the clips of their attempts, they're booting the heck out of the ball. The problem isn't distance at all.
Where's it going?
It's like you got the
Where's
distance
it going?
like 60. But yeah, and they were near misses too. So it's like just clean up a little bit of things. And one of the things in our group chat, Matt O mentioned, brought up a point of a guy like Aubrey. I know he played semi-pro or whatever it was. No, not semi-pro. USFL.
Yeah.
He never played college football, didn't do it in high school. So what's going to happen if you put him in the lights in front of, all the fans at Cowboys Stadium? Like, what are you going to get out of him? So, man, a young guy, probably first time, jitters out there. Finally, the fans who are in the stands looking to see him, because it's been much talked about, the fact that we hadn't seen him so far. So we'll see, not panicking too much. But the word that you put there, concern, that's appropriate. And then mine next.
Yeah. I got one too. What you got? I'm gonna see if we line up here. Let's see if we let me see if we have it this way. Let's see if we're on the same page.
Offensive line.
Oh, there it is. Yeah. I'm a little nervous about the depth too, sir. Go right ahead. Look, Zach Martin needs to get here. But go right ahead.
So, all right, I gotta read a quote. I first gotta mention the Zach Martin thing. So I'm not panicking about the line because I don't think he's gonna get paid and all that, because people have been talking about that point. Because Jerry made a comment the other day, and people took that comment and ran with it. Yeah. So basically, I can't find it, but the gist of it was Jerry was asked by a reporter these players who were, trying to get their money before the contract is over, and then him paying them, is he concerned that that would start a precedent? So he answered the question about
Right.
precedent. So he was like, no, I'm not worried about precedent. People took that, fans hear that,
Right.
and they just immediately like, oh, he don't care about Zach Martin,
Yeah.
asking for money. No. He's saying, I don't care about precedent of like setting a precedent of paying players before, the contract is up and them trying to negotiate to get more money or whatever it may be. So then he quickly, in that same breath, he said, no, I'm not concerned about setting precedent. The fact is, I have to pay the quarterback, Micah, and he runs down the list. So, no, it's fact. Like, he's trying to drive home his fact. I got to pay all these other people. We have a plan. So we're going. So no, I'm not worried about it. No, we don't need to worry about that. We don't have to be concerned about that. There's no concern. When Jerry's saying there's no concern, it's not like Zach ain't getting paid. So number one, though, Zach need to get back. He's got to be
10-4.
He's got to be there at right guard, because putting him back in that starter's role is going to help, because a lot of the snaps that you see is there's pressure on the edge. There's been pressure up the gut. But we're not going to be facing Micah Parsons, on other teams every week. Micah's just a different animal. He's getting that pressure. But what I've been concerned about is what's been happening up front. So you need Zach Martin. But there's some other guys. There was a number 72. I don't know who that is. I went to the Cowboys.com site, looked up their roster. They don't even have a 72 on the roster, but there's a 72 playing right tackle. And he looked like, one of the extras in a Dak commercial where you just, go find a bunch of big boys in the street. That's just not looking good. And I told y'all, like, Adoga just didn't look good. So I'm thinking, if there's anything, we've been talking about linebacker being a potential position where you go out and you get a veteran at some point to be able to just help in the room. I'm starting to think offensive line is where you might try to find a veteran who can help be a depth piece. The same thing like you did with Peters last year.
Right.
So that's where my concern is.
And 72, man. Look, man, that's Ed Too Tall Jones, and leave it alone. Okay? Dadgummit, I'm old head.
I don't even know.
That's Ed Too Tall Jones. Dadgummit. Leave that 72 alone. That's his. Nobody else's. But I'm not there with you. Offensive line a little bit. Look, and we know it's going to be better when Martin gets back, right? We understand that. The thing where we wasn't sure about was we thought Chuma originally was going to come in here and be the guard. That's what we thought he was going to come really compete at. And the Cowboys decided to put him at tackle. And of course, you saw, and we've talked about, hold on there, fella, and what's going on there. And of course, Farniok, has had good returns at camp so far, being the backup guard or whatnot. But boy, waiting for the other tackle to kind of come around or whatever. So and again, they're going against our defense. So, right. So I guess take that with a grain of salt and whatnot. Right. But yeah, the depth of things and how they're looking at it, definitely need to get Martin back in this building and see what's going on. But when we talk about, and I think it's a great point that you made there, is that where we're at right now, and we're talking about some of these cuts are going to be hard or whatever, maybe that's where you go find another offensive line piece if need be. And you don't have to cut someone, maybe you're able to move somebody perhaps or whatnot to do. But again, something to keep an eye on. I mean, again, first padded practice, we know what's happening. Once Zach Martin gets here, then we get maybe a bit clearer picture of what's going on. But yeah, right now, after you going out there and kind of talking about some things and then looking at it today, I was like, Neville Gallimore got off today too, by the way. I was like, hey, what's going on in there, fellas? Tyler B might have threw a little elbow in here. So Tyler B might got to mix it up a little bit. But some of the concerns are, but going back to some of these other guys, Eric Scott was the guy on draft day, like the Cowboys had just trade up for him. They traded back into the draft for him. And we're kind of like, ooh, that's interesting. And continue today as well. Sticky is the term I keep hearing from the guys that are out there reporting mean, see Dom. I think Tuck was live a little bit earlier before he came on. I kind of jumped to the Tuck's live. Tuck was talking about it as well. Kyle Yeomans has talked about it. Like, that's the term that it seems to come up with. Everyone that watches him is sticky. Just he's right there. He's not, maybe he's not in the best position all the time, but he's never out of position at any time. And I think it's very interesting for this young man, coming in 6th round, Cowboys trading back in for him and where he's at. And again, apparently had another good day today as well.
Yeah, he is the type. We do it every year as fans, where this guy cannot be cut, won't be cut, because we won't be able to get him back. But if there's anybody that I would put that label on, it's him out of this rookie class. I just don't think that's one you could chance letting go, or a guy, who's been playing within this rookie class and even last year's class. It's funny that you mentioned the word sticky, because even when he's been getting like whenever he was beat, for example, the play where Jalen Tolbert had a nice catch from Dak, it was probably about a 25-yard reception. It was down the left side of the field near the goal line where Tolbert kind of came back to the ball, turned around and caught it. That was on Eric Scott. But if you watch that play develop, it was a hitch by Tolbert, and that hitch did nothing to Eric Scott. He stayed in phase. He was right there in his hip pocket, even got on top of Tolbert, which is what you want. What happened is Dak, just the savvy that he has, threw the ball short and behind, so then Tolbert could come back almost like a back shoulder type of situation, but it truly wasn't that. But it was almost like that same action. So Tolbert was able to get to the ball, but Eric Scott was right there. So whenever people use words like that across the nation, talking about sticky, yeah, you can definitely see that. So it's almost as if Dallas has pulled it off again here now, where they've able to get a late round guy who looks promising thus far. So if you're looking at doing roster cuts, I think Eric Scott is going to be one of those guys who end up, that 52nd or 53rd guy, because he's showing something, but then also, you probably won't be able to recoup him, because he's going to put some snaps out there in preseason, I bet, where there's no way the league won't know what the Cowboys have in that young guy. So, yeah, hats off to him. It's promising for him right now, but sticky, yeah, I'd apply that word to him. He's physical too.
Yeah. Another thing too, the tight ends today, and especially in the 11-on-11, basically just had them blocked today. Not really going out for passes, they just had them blocking. That was very interesting in catching that little snippet about what they were doing with them today. Yeah,
you need to the way.
Need help.
You got a right tackle coming off ACL. I mean, I've beat that dead horse about offensive lineman can come back quicker than any other position player from an ACL. And then you got Tyron, who's been hurt for 7 straight seasons. He's now older. He's playing left tackle. They've been getting worked by Parsons, Sam Williams, and those guys even today. So, man, you're going to need somebody to be able to help them out. So, yeah, moving forward right now, it'll be interesting to see if they'll go more 12 personnel to be able to help with the blocking scheme.
Yeah, big facts. Big facts.
Keen action.
Yeah, whatever it takes.
McEwen,
Lipke over there doing something. Yeah. I don't know, Chipham, which again goes back to Monzi. We talked about a little bit earlier, and the fact they were combo blocking Monzi, and then they had the tight end crashing down. I know there was another situation where they were trying to get to a double to Micah. It just didn't matter. They were trying to crack with Gallup coming down, and the tackle didn't matter. And I just saw the daggum Tyron and Micah zoomed in slow motion. I'll send that to you afterwards. Oh my God! Like why? Let's not. But yes, it's a thing of beauty on that front. And then let's kind of go back over to the linebackers from today too. We're getting up close to the hour. I know we got only about an hour for you, and so we can get out of here. And of course, we'll be back over. I will be for sure. Sways will be at 8:00. We'll continue the conversation over there. In the press conference today, spoke about Jabril Cox. Mike McCarthy did.
I didn't catch that one.
And how he's been coming along, and had a good practice Saturday. And go back to the OTs we talked about things in that realm. And then the other thing too, and one of the things that you mentioned while you were out there is like just the speed and everything, and how they were moving. And I kind of the clips I got to watch today from the camp and what was going on, him in coverage, like Ducey get no separation from Cox. I was like, oh, okay, I see you right there. Make the tackle, do your thing. But the other side of that was, boy, as much as we've been talking about year 2 Tolbert, and for good reason, maybe we're not saying enough about year 2 Damone Clark, because man, the buzz is real about him out there. It's been simmering somewhat, but apparently today, another really great day for Damone Clark and what he's bringing to the table. So I know we've talked about waiting to see him walk through the door, and the buzz has not quite been what we've been talking about, but maybe it's time to really start looking in what we're hearing from out there right now about Damone Clark and his projection into year 2, maybe a la what we're seeing from Tolbert as well too from the offensive side.
Hey, first, Jabril Cox, wasn't he the player that had a nice beat and track down of Daniel Jones?
Oh yeah,
Nice little ear hole action. Jones had to lead a game. So that same kind of flow and quickness, reaction skills. Dallas does a drill where the running backs, they go into the flat, and then you as a linebacker, you're now supposed to, cover that. That's your guy. So that's your key. Well, when they do that drill, Cox is like, he moves different.
Yeah.
Like him and Clark are the athletes. And so I can only imagine him being used in that role when you start talking about pass coverage, because he's got the ability, that sideline to sideline speed. Some linebackers are tackle to tackle, but this guy can go from one sideline to the next quick in a hurry. So that means that's 2 straight practices here in camp where they've gone out of their way to start, speaking about how well he's done thus far in camp. So that's a good sign. We've been wanting to see this out of Cox. So hopefully he'll keep going.
And we got as Dom came back from Oxnard, he tagged our guy, friend of the show, brother of the show, into Oxnard out there today. Jay Tuck out there in Oxnard, living his best life. Go ahead and do what you got to do. Get yourself situated. No offense or buts. But Dom, hearing that about Cox and everything else, take your time. I'll drop it. I'll put you right down. Just let me know. It's fine. We know how to look. Look at him. Check your settings. It's always fun when we do it on the fly.
Oh yeah.
But that's about Cox though, Dom, as Tuck's in there getting situated for a second there. On the back channel of that, right? Back to Clark though, as Tuck's getting set up. So man, and we're seeing some of the LBE stuff. It's intriguing to see these guys kind of move forward and have those opportunities right now. And Cox with the knee, what we knew about that and how he's moving. But again, back to that Clark buzz and that speed and everything. And of course, we knew when we had the conversation, right, about what was going on with him from the coverage and him going out there working with Ryan Clark and getting that stuff under wraps. So, exciting to see the young guys starting to step through. It was one of the things we wanted to see in camp, and we're starting to really see it. And with the pads coming on today, there was even more of it.
Much is made in Cowboys Nation and in fandom, period, about labeling guys in a position group as the number one guy, LB1 or receiver 1, running back 1, QB1.
Right.
Well, Clark seems to be emerging as the LB1 on the team. We know they just re-signed Leighton Vander Esch to a 2-year deal, $8 million this past offseason. That was a must type of sign, especially whenever you look at the linebacking free agent group. LVE was one of the best linebackers, maybe arguably the best one, especially in an affordable rate for Dallas. So you had to bring him back, and he had a quality season. But we know overall throughout his career, especially these last 4 years coming out of that stellar rookie season where he was second team All-Pro, LVE's been, right around that above average, league average type of linebacker, but that's the kind of player that you're going to need on a team in the NFL. But when it comes to a guy being dynamic that you hope can piece it together consistently throughout his career, year after year, and then also continue to grow and ascend, Clark has all those tools, and so you might be seeing the emergence of a guy who could take over that linebacker one spot for Dallas, and maybe potentially one day get the green dot.
Oh,
But for now, that's not him just yet.
right.
By the way, which brings up a point that I want to make.
Uh-huh.
J. Ron Curse, whenever you follow J. Ron, I got J. Ron on Twitter. You got to read through the veil. Sometimes it's masked. It's cryptic.
Cryptic, okay.
So a couple of years ago, whenever they were getting ready to do roster cuts, he put out a tweet that was like, "Man, that sucks." So everybody all Curse
Oh
must
yeah,
be
I remember
cut.
that. Yeah.
And he's like, "No, what you talking about?" And what he was talking about, really, what sucked, they were giving him the green dot.
Yeah.
That's what sucked. I don't think he wanted it, but he went out and he flourished in that role.
Right.
And that allowed a young guy like Micah Parsons to come in and do his thing. So maybe not giving the young guy Clark that green dot just yet. Just let him get settled in his first full season as an NFL starter. Then maybe, year 3, we might see that green dot go to him. But as far as performance and the athleticism and what you need him to bring to the table right now, he's got all of that for sure.
Yeah. All right, now, Jay Tuck. There it is.
We're good. You guys hear me?
There
you go.
Big man. First day on the camp, the best day to be on the camp. The pads came on. Some stuff going on out there. What did you see, man? Give us some details. What were we liking out there?
Yeah, we finally got some football, some live action, man. Everyone's out there looking like a superstar last week and just walked through some shells. But today we saw some thumping, man. And like I said, the thing that really stood out to me, and I said this in my show earlier, is that the intensity with the offense. And I know, Dom, you were out here last week, so you can probably attest to this too. Like, it just feels more like football with Brian Schottenheimer with the sheet, right? Like, the way that he's coaching, the energy that he's using with the players, it's like just a different swagger and a different feel. And I was talking about, there was a situation where they were kind of just doing early drills, just kind of running a few different routes. And Dak had hit CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb is, the coolest thing this side of the earth, man. He got his one leg sleeve and got his, shorts cut all up.
Yeah.
So he makes the catch, right? So he's trotting up the field. Of course, all the Cowboys fans hoop and holler. And so, like, Brian Schottenheimer goes over to him and not tearing him a new one or anything like that. He's like, no, you're supposed to bend the stem. Like, you stem, you bend it, you're supposed to bend. He's like, everyone come here. So he was, like, really coaching them on this route and just this minimal drill. And CeeDee Lamb was very receptive to it. He's like, okay, my bad, coach, my bad, And they went back and ran the drill. So it's just those small attention to details is something I definitely like. And then also from Mike McCarthy's side is he is like this when it comes to Dak Prescott. Like, they are hand in hand now. Finally. And so, when practice starts off, you see Dak and Mike McCarthy, they go to the play sheets, they're talking, they're hand in hand throughout drills. They're going Mike McCarthy and Dak after practice. Dak stayed to talk to Mike McCarthy for almost like 25 minutes or so. And so this is what really gets me excited from an offensive standpoint of the ball, because I've been wanting to see for so long. So this feels like football. And you've been very vocal about the culture. It feels like a football culture. Go ahead.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah,
we got a robot voice. All of a sudden, you got a robot.
Right in the middle. It was just right in the middle.
Yeah, it was right in the middle. It was good. It was cooking.
You were cooking, man.
Yeah, you was cooking. You was cooking over there.
You still a robot?
Yeah.
You still a robot?
Everyone's like, is that just me? No, we hear you. He's robot Tuck now. He's been up since 2 a.m. He's been up since 2 a.m. He's out here getting it.
Hey, while Tuck tweaked that, I want to speak directly to what he just said too about Schottenheimer. Schottenheimer had a direct quote of saying, it's him as a coach, he didn't have the athleticism that these guys that he's coaching has. A lot of people, fans say that, they make a big deal about whenever a coach never played. Like, how can you go and coach somebody? Well, the thing is, these guys, they know their coaches, aren't as gifted as them physically. But the thing about them is you see the respect that those coaches already have of those players. And it's teaching moments. And like you said, there was no yelling and screaming and jumping down on them. Now, they're animated, they're excited whenever
Right.
they're talking. You see the energy that comes out, but you see that passion. But it's not to embarrass a guy in front of his teammates. 'Cause we know about the ego of these dudes too. But it's like a teaching, a proper teaching. And Schottenheimer literally said that about the players. Like, I didn't play like they could play. I don't have what they have, but it's nice to be a coach where these supreme athletes are receptive of what you give them, even when you got to jump on their butt. And so, yeah, I'm glad you were able to see that, Chuck, and be able to speak to that because, fans in the stands are going crazy. And it's like, y'all don't realize what's happening right now. Like the average fan really doesn't. And so see him go like, nope, come over here. Like, let's get this corrected.
Yeah.
Because you can't start to, learn and practice those bad habits. Like, it's got to be precise.
It's
Can
important.
you
All right,
guys
so jump
hear
back
me
in
now?
there. Go ahead.
Can you guys hear me now? Am I still roboting?
Nah, you roboting, bro. It's hella roboting. That's
Let me
weird.
jump out and come
We're
back
running
in.
back. Don't worry about it. Hey, we're running back. I know you got a phone call. You're busy out there. It's all good. We're about to. We'll figure it out. We'll link up on the back channels and figure something out.
Okay. All
All right, bro.
Sorry about it.
It's always fun when my guy Tug comes through, man.
Man.
It is what it is. He's out there getting it
Chuck
in.
was about to drop all the gems.
I know. I was ready. I was ready. But we'll figure it out and work it back in and see what's going on that way. And of course, we're going to be good 7:31, Dom. So our power hour we gave y'all tonight. We got some things got to hit on the back ends as well too. And of course, 8 o'clock, I'll be back on the space over there. It's Twitter. I don't know. Mama named him Twitter. I'm calling him Twitter. I don't know what this X is and everything else. I'm just calling it Twitter. Okay, it's what his mama called him.
Right.
So y'all know the drill, man. Make sure you hit the subs, share it. It's free 99 to share this content out, man. We're gonna be keep hitting you. Of course, Friday we're back in the building at 8:30 p.m. Central, and Spoonie, everybody be in the building as well too, and we'll keep bringing in and grinding this content for you. Y'all be safe, be blessed, go Cowboys.